Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Sunshine Coast, Eastbourne Jews and Music. And first of all, a big thank you to the Jewish Small Communities Network. You've helped sustain us through the tough times of lockdown, and thanks to our team from the Connecting Small Histories project, and to everyone who's helped, Stephen Frank, Pat Moss, Robert Girling, Larry Navon, and to my family, of course. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's begin with the Grand Hotel. It was built in 1875 and it's known as the White Palace. It cost £30,000 to construct, and it was built for the upper classes to take their holidays by the sea, taking their staff with them. And it's probably the only five-star British seaside resort hotel, still with a splendid reputation. The first musical director of the Grand Hotel Orchestra was called Simon van Leer, and he was a Sephardi Jew. I think there are clues to that in his history. He was a secular Jew. And his stage name was Herr von Leer because everything Viennese was fashionable at the time until 1914 and the First World War, when things changed. And here he is when he's older, but also here he is with his orchestra, who are called the Palm Court String Orchestra, and they played in the Great Hall of the Grand Hotel. And the band has received some attention over the years because their cellist, not the person in the picture, but their cellist, John Wesley Woodward, sadly was on the Titanic and was playing as the ship went down. Now, musicians have very colourful backstories, particularly at this time, and he told a story that in The Hague, where he came from, he didn't want to go into the family business and so was encouraged in his musical career by a sponsor, the Countess of Sipierre. And he said he studied in Berlin with the king of violinists. Everyone seemed to have a sobriquet then, the vastly talented Hungarian Jewish violinist, Joseph Joachim. And himself was a protege of Mendelssohn and Robert Schumann and Liszt. And that explains perhaps why the piece of music most connected with Simon was Mendelssohn's violin concerto in E, which he played at the Salle Erard in Paris on his travels before he came to Eastbourne. 1903, after coming to England and first living in London in Grafton Street, by 1903, Simon Van Leer was the first musical director of the Grand Hotel Orchestra. And his autograph book was full of names of the great and good. His grandson tells me that in his autograph book, King Edward VII, Sir Ernest Shackleton, Dame Nellie Melba, Sir Henry Wood, Edward Elgar, Haile Selassie, and Churchill, to name but a few. And did he work with Debussy when Debussy fled to the Grand Hotel with his Jewish lover, Emma Bardak? Debussy would have been mad not to have looked for the help from Simon Van Leer. Also with Simon Van Leer in the Seaside Road was his wife, Flora Mannheim. And let's be honest, Flora was an amazing musician on her own. She had a great solo career in Europe and in England as a leader of ladies' Scottish orchestras, and she was Dutch as well. And she started her musical career at a really young age, when she was about 14. And all newspaper reports talk of her remarkable pluck. She said that she actually enjoyed conducting men's orchestras, that she'd conducted an orchestra of 60 men in Ryde in the Isle of Wight. And she said that there was an unreasonable prejudice to women conducting men's orchestras. She was so feisty. There's a story in Eastbourne how she was stopped by a policeman for riding her bicycle without a light. Oh, she said, she was just pushing it. And then she said someone had stolen the light, and she was prepared to argue with the policeman, although eventually she did get fined. And you can just see a little picture below of one of her Scottish ladies' orchestras, which was quite a thing at the time. I think people liked novelties. And in 1914, the Van Leer family came together in a band to raise money for the Red Cross Equipment Society, collecting outside the railway station and of course outside the Grand Hotel, and poignantly new recruits saying it's a long way to Tipperary, and Flora collected money with a young Noel Stretfield who lived in Eastbourne and was later to write the famous book Ballet Shoes. Now you become very close to the people you research, and how sad I was to find out that Flora was killed in Auschwitz in 1942 because she had returned to Holland with her daughter and her daughters, and Felicia, her daughter Felicia, was killed, and Felicia's husband Mickey as well. Very poignant. And this is a song that Flora conducted in aid of soldiers and sailors' families during World War I. That's the remarkably plucky Flora Mannheim. And these are Simon Van Leer's daughters, Dorrie, who went to America, Felicia in the middle, who was killed at Auschwitz, and Beatrix, Trixie, the mother of the Frank brothers on the right. Beatrice and her 3 sons survived Theresienstadt camp. Her husband was killed at Auschwitz. I'm really indebted to Stephen Frank, who has a BEm for Holocaust education. He's helped me so much with this project, and he is the grandson of Simon Van Leer. Here is his father, Leonard David Frank, uh, a wonderful lawyer who cared so much about human rights. Uh, Simon wrote a beautiful memoir of his father who died at Auschwitz, and we shared this. We used it for Holocaust Memorial Day for Tunbridge Wells, and it was also on Parliament's website as well, on their online magazine. So let's move on to Albert Sandler, the wireless star of BBC's Grand Hotel broadcast from Eastbourne. He was born Abraham Sandler in Mile End, one of 7 children, but 3 were really musically talented. He had a scholarship to the Guildhall School of Music. At 15, he worked as a cinema violinist, and at 16 led an orchestra at Lyons Corner House, and then he went to the Trocadero. Here he is playing Roses of Picardy by Hayden Wood. And you can see he was really famous. He even made cigarette cards of famous radio celebrities. By the way, Roses of Picardy was my grandmother's favourite song. Well, he was offered the Grand Hotel orchestra leader job in 1925 at just the right time. The BBC were now a new high power station, moving from more regional broadcasts to national ones, and the first night of the launch also included Sandler and the orchestra from the Grand Hotel. 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. And these light classical concerts were to last for 50 years and were one of the most popular shows in the history of broadcasting. Albert Sandler became a star, a heartthrob. Women sent him marzipan violins with pink ribbons. He earned enough to buy a 1701 Stradivarius violin. And although his music could be called quite syrupy now, he always said, there is beauty in the simplest thing, well done. He kept his integrity, whatever he was playing. And you can see he had a strong Jewish identity. He did put out a record, Eli Eli, a Jewish song. And on the flip side, yes, you guessed it, was Kol Nidre. He kept a member of St John's Wood Synagogue all his life. He donated to Jewish charities, the Jewish Maternity Hospital, London Jewish Hospital, and the Jewish Orphanage of West Norwood. Sadly, he died really young at 42. Some people put that down from the stress of a difficult divorce, which I won't go into, but he also was a workaholic. Leslie Jeffries, Grand Hotel icon of Eastbourne, one of the longest serving resident musical directors ever. Let's hear him play. So while Albert had quite a strong Jewish identity, Leslie wasn't really out as a Jewish person. He was born David Yaffa and went to school in Bethnal Green in Cephas Street, and he was a cousin of Max Jaffa, who also had a connection with the Grand Hotel broadcast in later years. He had a colourful life as a musician. Before the Grand Hotel, he toured America and South America with his brother and came back in 1921 to work at Lyons Corner House. He had his own popular Rialto dance band, and he had new ideas, like starting Valdanara and his Hungarian Blue Orchestra. He picked up lots of ideas on his travels. He made his Eastbourne debut on Saturday, the 22nd of April, 1934, and his style totally fitted the Grand Hotel. People talked about it being such an admirable setting for him. The delicate sounds of the strings vibrate gently, and one gets the impression of being in a palace of melody, said the Radio Times. His last Grand Hotel broadcast was the 24th of April 1954, but he continued his association with the Grand Hotel, and he died there the day after he performed. And here's a different band. Oh, how this band were loved in Eastbourne. Cecil Sapseed and his Savona dance band. A bit of a tongue twister. There's Cecil Sapseed standing up behind them. This, don't get me wrong, this wasn't a Jewish band, but it did have a Jewish member, and that's Lou Morris, who is on the far left holding the clarinet. Everybody loved this band. They were loved so much that when the drummer, who's actually sitting next to the drum there with the saxophone, when the drummer was really badly ill in hospital, as you can see, he lost his leg. 1,000 people in Eastbourne attended the Everybody's Ball at the Winter Garden in 1935. Half the profits, £27, were sent to Freddie. And they even brought a telephone into the Winter Garden, and 1,000 people strained to hear his voice. He was loved so much. And this is one of the songs they played. They love dressing up, so they played this in Convict.
More months and 10 more days I'll be out of the calaboose, and 11 more months and 10 more days they're gonna turn me loose. Mazel tov.
The band played at Dale and Curley's, which was a general and fancy drapers. The store with the cheery welcome. Dancing is free to everybody who partakes of tea. So you could buy net curtains, you could choose a new corset, you could buy a new hat, you could even buy a maid's costume, and then you could go to the tea dance. And later it became so popular, there were coffee dances, there were evening dances as well with the Cecil Sapseed band. So there they are again, and you can see Lou Morris. So Lou on the left was multi-talented. He could play the banjo, the guitar, the sax, the double bass, and he also demonstrated the latest dance steps. And his sister Jenny was a pianist for silent films at the town's Tivoli Cinema. Lou and Jenny were the children of Alfred Morris, a founder of the Eastbourne Hebrew congregation. He and his wife Esther owned several businesses in the area, such as a hairdresser's, a sweet shop selling rock. The enterprising family were originally from Chingford in Essex. They fell in love with the town when escaping the Zeppelins in 1918, and they had run a Jewish boarding house in the 1920s. When Lou married his French wife Sonia in 1936, Eastbourne Hebrew congregations was so excited. It was their first wedding. Crowds of well-wishers gathered outside the building. Some people came over enthusiastically in time for the morning service. Members of the band sang "I'll See You in My Dreams," their theme tune, when the wedding party left. Reverend Lewis Wolfe translated parts of the wedding service into English for visitors, and the local paper did quite a spread about the Jewish wedding and the novel observances in it. And Lou and his wife left for honeymoon in Cornwall and Devon, so things don't change much. And here is Lou, a little older. He had a very successful career during the war. He became a major. He was mentioned twice in dispatches. And his second wife, Dorothy, was the composer Sir Malcolm Arnold's personal assistant. And they loved donkeys. They opened a donkey sanctuary. He had a donkey stud farm. So I suppose you could say from drapers to donkeys. But a lovely person. Well, where to in the future? Thanks to the project, I've got very interested in Jews and musical, and here is someone who I find quite fascinating, August Ezekiel van Biener from Rotterdam, known as the magician of the cello. I told you about the sobriquets, and he was a cellist, an actor and composer of The Broken Melody, a drama which just starred him, and he played this role 6,000 times all around Britain and abroad as well. And this is his rescuer, Sir Michael Costa. Why do I say rescuer? Well, August came to England with not a lot of money, and so he became a street musician playing the cello in Covent Garden. And Sir Michael Costa, who ran the orchestra at Covent Garden, and he was a Sephardi Jew, just like August van Biener. So Michael Costa came up to him, saw he was incredibly talented, and said, "Why are you performing outside?" And August said, "I'm hungry." And so Michael Costa said, "Well, come and play in my orchestra." And the rest, as they say, was history. So he played in the Covent Garden Orchestra. He played for D'Oyly Carte. He became really quite famous, but he was particularly well known for the Broken Melody. He did perform the Broken Melody in Eastbourne, but I don't know what happened, but the audience weren't as attentive as he would like. And at the end, he got up and in front of everyone said, "You're all brainless idiots, don't come back." However, he did come back to Eastbourne at least twice more. But he was a real character, and you can actually hear his voice in this recording.
Come and sing me the melody we both love so well.
And yeah, that was the Broken Melody. And I have to say that August had a very strong Jewish identity. So he always played on stage. If he was playing on stage on a Saturday, he always played Kol Nidre. A very, very interesting person. And a quite sad end, though, that he was performing the broken melody on stage, and at just the point where he was meant to die, he did die. He died on stage, and everyone thought it was part of the act. His son was conducting the orchestra at the time, but what a way to go. Anyway, when the world opens up again, I'll see you in Eastbourne on the beach. Thank you. Bye.